Okay, this is section 2, and let's get started. In this section, I'll be explaining some scientific concepts so that you can understand the coronavirus and how the vaccines work. So first, I'm going to go over what cells, DNA, RNA, and proteins are, and then I'll get into viruses and talk more about the coronavirus and how your immune system responds to it. And lastly, I'll talk about how mRNA vaccines work. So if you look at the back of your hand and start to zoom in, you see your hair and start to see the pores in your skin. Keep zooming in from there, and eventually you'll start to see that your skin is made of these little compartments, and these compartments are called cells. So cells are the building blocks of living things, and there can be different types of cells depending on where they are and what they need to do. So for example, you have skin cells to protect your organs, and muscle cells to help you move, and you also have stomach and intestine cells to help you digest food. Every cell has this basic structure, and I like to compare it to an egg. So they've got a membrane, which is like the eggshell, and a cytoplasm, which is like the egg whites, and a nucleus, which is like the egg yolk. And the nucleus holds the cell's DNA, which is like an instruction book for the cell. And you can think of a cell as a little factory that has its own machines to make energy and build things and break things down. And these machines are found in the cytoplasm, those egg whites. And the nucleus is like the factory's office that tells it what to do. So let's look into the nucleus a little closer. Okay, so now we're in the nucleus of the cell, and the nucleus holds the cell's DNA. So DNA is like the main computer in the office that has all the instructions for the factory. The office sends an email, like mRNA or messenger RNA, out to the factory to tell them how to build a tool or protein. And this happens because the machines that make the proteins are out here in the cytoplasm, out in the factory, and they can't come into the nucleus. So after the email is read a few times, it's deleted, and you end up with some tools that the cell can use to do its jobs. So now let's talk about viruses. Viruses are much, much smaller than cells, and their only goal is to make copies of themselves. But they don't have machines to do that like cells do. So how do they multiply? The only way they can do that is to break into your cell and use its machines, turning your cells into virus-making factories. They're like a rival company that emails the factory telling everyone to change what they're building. So this shows the basic structure of a virus. So first they have to have instructions. So they have either DNA or RNA, which is the squiggly thing in the middle, which is protected in an envelope, which here is the pink. And then that envelope has tools or proteins on the outside that helps this virus break into cells, and these are the green things. You can think of these binding tools as a keychain with lots of different keys that it can use to unlock cells. This is what a coronavirus looks like. This is part of an entire family of coronaviruses, and the specific virus that caused this pandemic is called SARS-CoV-2. That stands for Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus 2. It has RNA instructions, which you can see here in the pink, and those instructions are inside an envelope, which is in the red, with these yellow spike proteins on the outside that help it break into your cells. So like I mentioned earlier, these yellow spike proteins are going to be like the key that it uses to get into the cell. So what cells can this virus infect? Viruses have to unlock cells using their key, but they can only infect cells with a lock or a doorknob on the outside. So that's going to be sticking out of the cell's membrane or that eggshell. That key has to be the right shape to fit into the cell's doorknob or receptor. And this yellow spike protein on the coronavirus is the key that it uses to fit into the ACE2 receptor or ACE2 doorknob on the cell. So this receptor is found mostly on lung cells, but it's also found in the heart and digestive system and sometimes on the tongue and the nose. This receptor is naturally on your cells, and it's normally involved in regulating blood pressure. So the shape of the virus's key happens to fit this lock so that it can enter any cell in our body with this ACE2 doorknob. So people and bats have similar ACE2 receptors, so this is how the virus was able to jump over to people. This is actually really common in nature, and it's called zoonosis. Your immune system is like a group of police cells that protect you against infection by bacteria and viruses. So this virus goes around infecting cells and making lots of copies of itself. And when the virus gets into your body, it isn't immediately recognized by your immune system as a bad guy, just like the police wouldn't arrest someone standing next to a bank. They'll only arrest them after they've broken into the bank and caused damage. So your body is kind of the same way. You only start to feel sick after the virus has infected and damaged enough cells to get the immune system's attention. And the immune system starts killing infected cells. So that's when you have symptoms, like a cough or a sore throat, depending on where those cells are being killed by the immune system and the virus. So this is why the virus mostly affects the lungs. The SARS-CoV-2 virus can only infect cells with that ACE2 doorknob, and lots of lung cells have that doorknob. The virus is damaging lung cells, and the immune system also damages lung cells in the process of trying to kill the virus. So that's why coughing and shortness of breath are common symptoms of COVID. So how does your immune system respond to this infection? Like I said earlier, it takes a while for your immune system to recognize the virus as a bad guy. So during this time, the virus has time to infect cells and make a lot more viruses, and this damages your cells and your body in the process. So your cells start to call out for help, and the immune system runs to the rescue. Some parts of the immune system are actively fighting the virus, and others are talking to witnesses and getting descriptions of what the virus looks like. They draw up wanted posters that they post all over the body to tell your body to be on the lookout for this virus. Once all the viruses are killed, they keep some wanted posters around the town and in the station just in case it comes back. And these wanted posters are called antibodies. So imagine in this scenario that the bad guy comes back to town. Someone recognizes him from a wanted poster the same day he gets to town, and they immediately run to warn the police. The police start their search much faster and know exactly who they're looking for. So they can also put the wanted posters in the copy machine to hang up lots of posters over town. And this way they quickly get the virus under control before it can damage the town. So this is basically what happens when your body sees a virus that it's encountered before, and this is called immunity. So how do vaccines work? You can think of a vaccine like the town that was hurt sending a couple of their wanted posters to a nearby town that have never met this bad guy before. So they're like, hey, watch out for this guy. He's bad, he's gonna hurt your town. So this is basically what vaccines do. Vaccines show your body a picture of the virus so that you start to make those wanted posters or antibodies for it. And this gives your body time to recognize this virus and make antibodies against it without having to be infected and sick. Also, vaccines cause a much stronger and longer lasting second immune response. So when you're actually infected by the real virus, you can quickly fight it off without getting sick. There are many different types of vaccines, and the version that is being distributed right now are the mRNA vaccines. So if you remember back to the slide showing the main computer sending out emails to the factory, the mRNA is like an email sent to your cell's factories that is telling them, in this case, to only make the virus's key, or that yellow spike protein. Your immune cells find the key and they think you're infected, and your body makes those wanted posters or antibodies for that key. So basically, beware of anything with this key. Then if you're infected with the coronavirus, which has that key, your body recognizes that yellow key, that spike protein on its keychain, and it can kill it before it infects you and causes too much damage. Okay, and that is all on the quick science background. If you'd like to learn this in a little more detail, then go watch section 3. I cover the same topics, but just in a little more detail. And these are the links to the entire PowerPoint for this series, and this is a link to my references. And you can also find these links in the description or on my Facebook page or Instagram. So please like this video and comment below if you have any questions.